Greetings, I am the Nerd, and we are here with another Nerdy Talks. It's basically going to be a show where either me, or both me, and the bird talk about a subject that intrigues us lately in gaming. Right now, you're going to be seeing gameplay of Mortal Kombat X, Guilty Gear, and then Blazblue Chrono Phantasma Extend. Three of my favorite fighting games at the moment, especially Blazblue and Guilty Gear. Those games are amazing. So what I want to talk about today was, why do people love fighting games so much? I mean, really, fighting games are just an amazing genre. They're my favorite genre by far. I love them more than first-person shooters, third-person shooters, third-person hack and slashes. Well, hack and slashes are pretty close second, and there's just so much awesome stuff about them. Besides the good, we're also going to be talking about the bad in fighting games. There are quite a bit of bad in it. There's quite a bit of bad in it. So, let's get started. Starting with the goods first, because who doesn't like the goods? So the reason why people love fighting games so much is that it gives you power. In at least well-balanced fighting games. In a well-balanced fighting game, you never feel like there's something that you can't beat someone just because of the character they use. In these well-balanced fighting games like Blazblue or Guilty Gear, you can always win as long as you are skilled enough. And most of the times when someone else wins, it's usually because you aren't skilled enough. Even if they are a spammer, you can adapt your strategy to them. So really, how many people you beat is literally up to your skill. Unlike other first-person shooters like Call of Duty, Titanfall, or Battlefield, you aren't guaranteed a kill, and that's what is so awesome about fighting games. You aren't guaranteed anything. You have to work for it. If you want to win, you have to work for it. And it's just amazing because when there's that one guy you find online, and no matter how much you try, you can't beat him, the day you do beat him, it is the greatest feeling in the world. Like, I had this guy who I fight in Blazblue Chrono Phantasma. He plays a really mean Relius. And he's known online as being a really good Relius player. And just like in the past couple of weeks, I fought him, I think, maybe 5 or 6 times. But every time he has fought me, it was complete devastation on my part. I could barely even hit him. But like a week or two ago, I got him into a room and we started playing. And I won. And I swear when I won, I threw my hands up in the air sometimes saying, "Hey yo, I won, bitches." And it just felt so awesome. Besides even just that feeling of it's always in your control, just the feeling that a one-on-one man fight is just pretty cool. You only have to focus on one person, so it's kind of easier to focus on him. And then you have these really cool flashy moves like Blazblue Distortions, Guilty Gear's Overdrives, or even Mortal Kombat's brutal X-rays and/or fatalities and/or brutalities. Those are awesome. Another thing that is awesome about fighting games are the characters. I mean, look at how many fighting game characters are iconic nowadays. We have Ryu from Street Fighter, Scorpion, and Sub-Zero. Chun-Li, Johnny Cage is also pretty popular nowadays. We have... those are pretty iconic characters. I mean, everyone knows Scorpion. I don't know a single person who doesn't know who Scorpion is. And besides being the people who aren't iconic, in the lesser-known fighting games like Guilty Gear, Blazblue, or even Unlightened Birth, you have really unique designs among them. I mean, look at some of the characters in Blazblue. Some people think they're over anime-ish, but I don't. I think they just look pretty cool. Like, look at the two main protagonists. Okay, Ragnar is pretty cliche-looking, but besides that, Jin looks pretty awesome. And you also have... sorry, something stuck in my throat. You also have Soul Okai from Guilty Gear, who has some awesome designs. And even the really simple designs like Ryu, you still know who they are, and they are awesome for that. And the music too. I don't know what it is about fighting games as a genre, but typically fighting games, besides the ones produced by NetherRealm, usually have kick-ass soundtracks. Especially anything composed by Daisuke Shimotari, who is a composer of both Blazblue and Guilty Gear. But even Street Fighter has some really memorable tracks, like Guile's theme. And then Marvel vs. Capcom, oh my god, that soundtrack is godly, especially Dante and Deadpool tracks. And Virgil's track too is amazing. And then even a fighting game like Marvel vs. Capcom 3, which isn't that well balanced, is still tons and tons of fun. I can't even tell you how many matches me and my brother have played in that game, or me and my friends, or me and the bird. We have all played so many matches of that game just because it's so much fun. And even other games like Dead or Alive 5, which are pretty popular, but people kind of diss it. But I don't get that for the fans of it, I bet. But the combat in that game is also just as deep, and fighting games typically have a very high execution barrier to get into it. And I understand a lot of people can't put forward the time or don't want to put in the effort and the time, because it is quite a lot to get good at a fighting game. I totally understand that. I will admit a lot of fighting games are probably too complex for their own good. I spent a lot of time talking about the good, so let's talk about the bads now. I guess one of the bads I can think of is that a few fighting games have some really well-written stories. Blazblue, Guilty Gear being the top examples, and even the new Mortal Kombat X is a pretty good story, albeit short. But still, even though they have some awesome writing, I just don't feel like anyone has gotten the fighting game story down yet. I mean, the writing is pretty good, but just the way it's presented and given to the player, it can be pretty bad sometimes, especially with BlazBlue's visual novel style. And then Guilty Gear, when I saw the 3D models, I was like, oh my god, this story mode's gonna be amazing, no more visual novel style. It still had that. Granted, it had a lot more cutscenes than BlazBlue did, but it still had a lot of moments where it was just kind of like still pictures talking to each other, which really disappointed me. I guess that I feel like if we could just get the story mode down, fighting games would just be so much more popular than they are right now. It's tough. I understand the style of gameplay limits the kind of story you can tell, because gamers want to play. We don't want to be stuck watching cutscenes for like 30 minutes or more. But with fighting games, sometimes that's kind of what has to happen, because you just can't move around like you can in normal games. It's all about the fighting. Another bad, I guess, would be, like I said earlier, the high execution barrier to get good at a fighting game. It's probably a bit too high. It would be really good if we had some simple games that had a lot of depth to it. I guess the closest thing we have to a simple yet deep game would be the Street Fighter series. But it doesn't kind of fill the role, as it's kind of, in my opinion, clunky, which is why I don't really play that much. Another bad, I guess, is probably production values. Beside Mortal Kombat X, you don't really have any AAA games in the fighting game genre. You have other games, which some of them look beautiful, like Skullgirls or Guilty Gear. Those games are just downright beautiful. But you don't really have a huge budget being put into the visuals of fighting games, because fighting games are mostly for the gameplay. The developers focus more on the gameplay. So if we want to bring people in, we're going to bring up our visuals a bit. BlazBlue looks really pretty with its really pretty sprite art, but gotta admit, I would rather have Guilty Gear than BlazBlue any day. And then even Mortal Kombat X, which is also really pretty, some of the 3D models can kind of drop the ball. Looking at you, some of the females. And then I guess another bad thing about it, sometimes it's also a good thing, is the community. Sometimes I love the fighting game community. I've been a part of it for about, let's see, 6 years now. No, 7 years. Yeah, 7 years. But I can understand why some people wouldn't like it, because I've ran into a good amount of hate mail from playing online. Ran into a good amount of trolls and spammers, which I can understand why people wouldn't like them. And there's also this mythical concept that a button masher can beat the pros. And trust me, that is not the case. If you were to see some of the guys like Justin Wong, Maximilian, or hell, even a subpar player like me, you can't really beat them. Anyone who knows their character, you can't beat them by button mashing at all. Trust me, people have tried to beat me with button mashing. Never worked. And the concept just needs to kind of die down. We need to find a way to destroy that perception of us, because it's really hurting the fighting game image. Because fighting game takes a lot of skill to get good at, because you got zoning, you got footsies, you have recoveries, you have DPs, you have reversals, you have a lot of things to think about. Another good thing about it is I love the mind games, because anyone who's a high-level fighting game player knows what I'm... Not high-level, but if you're pretty familiar with fighting games, you know what I'm talking about when I say the mind games are so real. Because in that... The few seconds before the fight starts are some of the most important. Because you have to properly predict what the opponent's going to do and react to it, or try to find a way to beat out anything that the opponent could do. Those few seconds before the match, your brain is coming up with a million things to do, and then you pick one thing to do. And if that one thing works, it's a great feeling. So, yeah, I mean, I love fighting games. You're probably going to see more of it on the channel. Hopefully we'll get some stuff up soon. We're working with a Blazblue video. Hopefully we're going to get recorded on that soon. That was my opinion on fighting games, on why they are great. This is the Nerd, signing off.